Hi guys, CodeTutor here and my name is Anil Deshpande.
If you have been doing Android development and have used Android, then you might be already familiar with dialogues. Dialogues are nothing but small windows that usually pop on top of an existing activity and they don't occupy the whole screen. You basically use it to show some kind of a error message, warning message, or ask for confirmation of a particular action to proceed with the further navigation in the application. In this video, we will be talking about how to go about implementing dialogues and how to use them in your application. Before actually we get down to business of implementing dialogue, we will have a look at the best practices of what should not be done with dialogues. The most important thing is don't open dialogues automatically. As soon as you navigate to an activity, don't automatically pop the dialogue. It actually distracts the user. Try to keep the overall size of the dialogues as small as possible, because ideally speaking dialogues should not occupy the whole screen. Minimal use of user interaction points. Don't create a dialogue where the user has to enter lot of information, do lot of selections. Keep it very minimal, because dialogue is not the place to do all that kind of user interaction. You have a normal screen which is designed using either a activity or a fragment. For that, don't create confusing user actions. What do I mean by that is, let's have a look at the dialog where it says discard changes and then with an option no and yes. What does no mean? Discard changes no or don't discard changes? It can be really confusing. It would be better if we had discard changes with option no and discard. So whenever you are designing content for the dialogue, spend some extra time to make sure that those dialogues don't actually confuse the user with the actions that he need to perform. Proceeding further, avoid scrollable dialogues until and unless it's a very small window containing 3-4 options and that needs to be scrolled, it's fine. And avoid multiple dialogues in a single screen. What do I mean by that is, you have a activity and you want to enter certain fields, and each and every time you click on certain button or a click on a particular option, you keep on popping up certain dialogues and asking for the user to enter some kind of information. If it happens around 3-4 times on a single screen while user is interacting in that particular screen, it will be a major distraction for the user. Avoid dialogues. If something can be done without dialog box on a normal screen, please try to get it accomplished through that route rather than using dialogues, because they can be distracting. However, if used correctly, dialogues can be a great way of improving the user interaction. And most importantly, always remember that there are always exceptions to these rules. So having understood non-programming part of it, let's get into how actually we implement dialogues. Dialog has been there as a class in Android since the very early beginning, that is API level 1. As you can see, there are various other subclasses like alert dialog, date picker dialog, progress dialog, time picker dialog. So they have been there in Android for quite some time. But this is not the only way to work with dialogues. There is another class called as dialog fragment. This was introduced in API 11, that is Android Honeycomb. And Android actually recommends you that for all custom dialog implementation, you better use dialog fragment instead of using a dialog. And as you can observe, that dialog fragment is actually a subclass of fragment. And if you recall, in the fragment series, fragment was also introduced in API level 11. And what if you want to use dialog fragment before API 11, that is before Honeycomb? In that case, Android provides you with another library, which is Android support v4 app, and it has a class called as dialog fragment, which provides you with the backward compatibility for dialog fragment for APIs below 11, that is 10 and below. So let's have a quick demo and understand how both ways of implementing dialog works. This is how the demo looks like. You have basically an activity with various buttons, and click on each button will basically trigger different kind of dialogues. So let's have a look at the most simplest one, that is a simple alert dialog box. As you can see, this is the activity and I have various buttons, and on click of each button I am invoking different methods like show alert dialog, show date picker dialog, show time picker dialog. So let's understand how a simple alert alert dialog box is being built. What I am basically doing is, instead of directly creating a class of dialog, I use a builder, which is a nested class of a alert dialog. So you can create a AlertDialog.Builder and pass it with the context and the theme that you want to use for that particular dialog box. If SDK version is more than lollipop, you can provide the theme, otherwise it takes some default theme that is provided by the Android. And then you have a builder dot set title, which will set the title to the alert dialog box and whatever the message that you want to show in that particular dialog box, how many buttons that you want to show in that particular alert dialog. It could be either one if you just want to show okay, or it could be two with positive and negative interactions. So in that case, for a positive button, what string you want to display, it could be yes or done, and then on click listener for that particular button in the dialog. So you have a dialog interface dot on click listener, and it has a method called as on click, which you need to override, and what you need to do when the person clicks yes. And in the same way, you can do set negative button and also supply the string for that particular negative button, and on click listener for that particular negative button. If you want to set icon, you can do that, otherwise it is not necessary. And then finally dot show. Until and unless you don't do a dot show, it will not show that particular dialog. And that's it. That is how you implement dialog without any dialog fragment in Android. However, in case you want to have a custom dialog with a custom layout, then you have to resort to using dialog fragment. We shall have a look at it in the next video. That brings us to the end of this particular video. Don't forget to like, comment, share the video and subscribe to the channel. Take care. Bye.